Domingo Santana, ooh, I wanna have ya. Tanaka's Fakakta, Jag like Michael Waka, Polanco and Franco. Where'd you go to get into first place? Check batted by data and swinging strike rates. Raisins are shriveled grapes. Here's Adam's happy place.
Happy Kokomo Friday. What a wild opening day it was. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today. Frank Stanfield joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Got a lot of action to catch you up on today. It was a very inconsistent day of aces on the mound. We had some pretty awesome hitting performances. I mean, who saw a slugfest coming in Kansas City? The Royals going up against the Texas Rangers there. Pretty sure that we suggested someone as a pitcher to stream in that game. What's going on, fellas? How are you guys doing? One day of fantasy in the books.
Doing great. I mean, not everything went the way I wanted it to, including Brad Keller's start. But, some things went well too. And obviously it was great having baseball. It was great tweeting about baseball all day. It's a lot of fun. Lots of fun.
We'll get to you, Chris, because day one, it's victory lap season, baby. But before we get there,
I mean, let's just not forget that I believe Giancarlo Stanton hit it. Did he hit 2 home runs last opening day or just 1?
So you're really good on opening day, basically, Chris.
I'm great. Nobody will ever top Heath calling for Ian Happ to hit a home run like 5 seconds. Or was that you, Scott?
That was me. Thank you.
It was the first pitch of the entire season.
Yeah,
I remember that.
It was Scott calling.
Yes, and then the
Happ
next
hitting a
year,
home run.
And then the next year on opening day, I called Luke Voigt hitting a home run. It wasn't the first at bat of the season, but I called it. I tried to do that today with Joey Votto.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Yeah, well, I think he hit an infield pop up. I think he hit 2 today.
He did. He hit a home run out of a silo.
It's the end times.
Right. Enough of the chit chat. Let's jump right in with our oh my goodness gracious player of the day.
Oh my goodness gracious!
And if you weren't around for this last year, it could be an awesome performance. It can be a terrible performance, but it's just something that made you say, "Oh my goodness gracious!" So why don't you get us started, Scott, with your player of the day?
Well, there was one pitching duel on a day full of aces, and that pitching duel was in the great state of Florida, where I live, which made it the one game I couldn't watch on TV, pretty sure. But anyway, Tyler Glasnow especially was the one who caught my attention there, not just because he threw 6 one-hit innings, but because he introduced his new slider cutter hybrid in a very loud way. He didn't just, sprinkle it in with his usual fastball curveball mix. He threw it a ton. He threw it 34% of the time. 34% of the time it was his best swing and miss pitch on the day. It looked incredible. And I mean, if he has another pitch, he already is this elite bat misser with a potential ace outcome. If he has another great breaking ball to go with the one he already had, I mean, that's just
it's funny though. It was like, oh well, Tyler Glasnow is great, but he's only a 2-pitch pitcher. Oh, now he's got this third pitch. He was kind of only a 2-pitch pitcher today, which was kind of funny. He threw 87% of his pitches were fastballs and sliders. He only threw the curveball 9 times. But yeah, I was watching this game. He looked absolutely unhittable. The Marlins looked like they had about as good a chance of getting a hit off Tyler Glasnow as he did while he was batting, and he didn't swing once in 10 pitches.
Man, like Starling Marte, I was looking at the box score. I wasn't watching that game, but he had a golden sombrero, and Marte he's a pretty good hitter, he's a pretty good contact hitter. So whenever you can make him look that foolish, I think you're doing something right. But look, part of the reason we were worried about Tyler Glasnow was his workload and how they were going to use him. He was incredibly efficient. He didn't walk anybody on opening day against the Marlins here. Only allowed 1 hit, 6 strikeouts, with 6 shutout innings for Tyler Glasnow in the start. And
77 pitches. So
yeah, he was
they were careful with him. Yeah, it's one of those situations where, like, if he had 80 pitches through 5 innings, maybe they let him go the 6th inning. But since he already made it through 6 innings and he hadn't quite reached 80 pitches, like, well, there's no reason to run him out for the 7th on opening day, you know?
Yeah, if he just stays healthy, I mean, that's one of the biggest keys for Glasnow. If he could stay healthy and keep those walks down, you don't want to overreact too much, but this slider looks like a legit pitch. And just, I mean, he used the curveball 12% of the time. Just having 3 pitches that he can use more than 10% of the time, I think is the arrows pointing up for Tyler Glasnow. His velocity, speaking of being up, that was also up a tick on Thursday. 97.9 miles per hour Tyler Glasnow averaged in this start. Chris, oh my goodness gracious, player of the day or night.
Why don't we just go to the other side of that game and talk about Sandy Alcantara, because he was just about as good as Tyler Glasnow. 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 hits allowed, 16 swinging strikes on 83 pitches, with an 86.5 mile per hour average exit velocity allowed. He was really, really good. One of the best starts I've ever seen from Sandy Alcantara. And, you know, the Rays are a fine offense. I don't think they're a particularly good or bad one. So very encouraging stuff. 16 swinging strikes on 83 pitches.
That was more than he had. That was more than he had in any of his starts last year. The 16.
Yeah, I think it's like the 4th most he's ever had in a start, and
6 of them came on the changeup, which is not a pitch he has featured much.
And I will say,
a pitch he has featured much.
I made the joke about Tyler Glasnow not swinging. He did strike out twice, but he didn't swing the bat in 10 pitches, which apparently they just told him, do not swing. You're not allowed to swing. So he technically had 16 swinging strikes on like 73 real pitches. So that's even better. Because he had no chance of getting a swinging strike against Glasnow.
That's a good point.
Again, that is Sandy Alcantara with the Miami Marlins. 6 shutout, 7 strikeouts to just 2 walks, 16 whiffs on 83 pitches. And I thought it was interesting because we were obviously touting him in spring, and I wanted to see if these whiffs would carry over because, you know, he's facing some lesser competition in the spring. And not that the Tampa Bay Rays lineup is amazing or anything, but to see those whiffs carry over, I thought that was very encouraging for Sandy Alcantara. And also his slider velocity. He averaged 89.4 miles per hour on the pitch in this start. Last year, that was 87.3. Now, I want to pay attention to some velocity stuff early in the season because there could be some wonky things going on in stadiums, some hot guns, whatever, some people pitching in cold places, cold venues, and their velocity being down. So we'll pay attention to the start over start. But if this is something that remains consistent for Sandy Alcantara, an 89 mile per hour slider, yeah, that's definitely going to play this season. Yeah, we're going to just go 3 for 3 with pitchers here. And you guys obviously highlighted, I would say, the 2 best pitchers of the day. Well, Lucas Giolito is still pitching while we're recording.
Yeah, he might be the best pitcher of the day. Or he might allow 5 runs next inning. So
he might. So we'll catch you up on that as the night goes along here. You're probably listening in the morning, afternoon, sometime this weekend. But we are recording.
He might not get through 6. Yeah, he's got 67 pitches right now. I'm going to call it. Giolito doesn't get a quality start.
We shall see. Luis Castillo. Obviously, many people freaking out, myself included. And he was at home in Great American Ballpark against the Cardinals. The final line, 3 1/3, 8 hits, 10 runs. 8 of those were earned, 2 walks, 0 strikeouts. If you play on CBS Sports in a points league, he give you -14 fantasy points. That is Luis Castillo, someone you might have even drafted in the 2nd round, more likely 3rd round to be either your first starting pitcher or your second starting pitcher if you were aggressive. And his fastball velocity was down 2.6 miles per hour in this start compared to where it was last year. Now, I will point out that he had starts in years past in April, both in 2018 and in 2019, where his fastball velocity did average below 95 miles per hour. So this is not something that is completely uncommon for Luis Castillo early in the season when he's pitching in less than ideal weather conditions. It was very cold in Cincinnati. I think it was 35, 37 degrees.
Yeah.
Castillo's
Snow flurries.
Castillo's agent, Rafa Nieves, responded to my tweet today to point out that Castillo has never pitched in a game below 50 degrees. So I think that definitely contributed here. And you know what else contributed? His defense. His defense was dreadful. And I think this might be something that hampers Reds pitchers all season long, unless they make some kind of change, because Eugenio Suarez committed 2 errors in the first 2 innings of the game. And there was another double play that should have been turned, and that's why some of these runs were unearned. But the home run that Carlson hit in the first inning off of Castillo should have never happened. They should have been out of that inning already. So I don't want to just make up a bunch of excuses for Luis Castillo, but if anybody in your league is freaking out, please just send buy low trade offers and try to acquire him, because that's
I think the results are less interesting and less relevant than the fact that he was throwing so low. And I don't think the fact that his velocity was so low really matters all that much. Frankly, and I wrote this for tomorrow's waiver wire column, I don't think really anything on opening day matters, really. It counts. That's one game of 162, but very little that we saw today matters. And right now, we can't say that Luis Castillo's velocity being down 2.5 to 3 miles an hour matters. If he goes out in his next start and it's down 3 miles per hour, then you start to look at it, and then you start to say, well, maybe this is a thing. But it's tough with velocity because it's the kind of thing that there's not noise to velocity the way there is to like batting average or on base percentage or BABIP. It's a direct measure of a thing the pitcher's doing, but that thing is not always static. Velocity fluctuates from start to start for every pitcher. So, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like when the weather warms up. Shane Bieber had a similar.
Well, that's what I was.
velocity
That's
drop.
what I point out is there were 2 games that I know of where the temperature was in the 30s, where there was snow falling off and on. One of them was this game where Castillo was awful. Jack Flaherty also wasn't very good, and Jack Flaherty's velocity was down about 2 miles per hour. Both of the pitchers in that other game, Cleveland, Detroit, Bieber, who you mentioned, Chris, and Matthew Boyd, their velocity was down about 2 miles per hour each. So like that's a pretty clear correlation, I would think. And it totally makes sense. Like I don't even understand how people move athletically in freezing temperatures, much less perform like world-class athletes. Your muscles are stiff. Everything feels so heavy and slow. Like I don't get it. I don't get how they're able to perform at all. They're just losing a couple miles per hour on their fastball. I think that's a win.
One thing we saw from Bieber that, let's just pretend as if the velocities we saw from Shane Bieber and Lucas Giolito, Jack Flaherty and Luis Castillo were real. I think where Luis Castillo would be more concerning than the other 2 guys is that he really doesn't have, like, Shane Bieber threw like I think 10 of his first 13 pitches were fastballs or something, and then I think it was 25 of the next 82 were fastballs. He just started throwing basically nothing but sliders and curveballs. And he had 17 swinging strikes on the 2 of them, and he had 12 strikeouts in the game. Luis Castillo doesn't really have that luxury. He's got that excellent changeup. He's got a decent slider, but he doesn't have, like, it's hard to imagine Luis Castillo going out and throwing 25% fastballs in the start.
No, that's a fair point. He's probably going to be around 50%, and then use the other 2 breaking pitches between 20 and 25%. But when everything's working, I mean, I would still say Luis Castillo is one of the 15, 12 best pitchers, starting pitchers in baseball. So if anyone in your league is freaking out about Luis Castillo, please send some offers. I would like to point out, Chris, I know you don't, all right, nothing matters on opening day, but I mean, come on, let's have a little bit of fun, right? FBT favorites were on fire on opening day. I've got to point it out. Brian Hayes, home run. Austin Meadows, go ahead, home run. Nick Castellanos, 3 hits and a home run. But hot damn, Chris, you were, it was Chris Towers' day. It wasn't just opening day. It was Chris Towers' day. You had a Sweet and savory alert. No, people don't like sweet and savory. A sweet and savory is a home run.
I like a sweet and savory.
If someone wants to change it,
You go to the movie theater, you get popcorn, you throw a little bunch of crunch on top of it. Amazing.
dude, goobers are one of my favorite snacks.
Sea salt and chocolate. Amazing.
So good, man. Like sweet and whatever. Sweet and savory is for a home run and a stolen base. If you don't like it, email us. Let us know what you think it should be. Byron Buxton had the first one of the season. He was great. And also Ketel Marte, dude. What? 4 for 5 with a home run, a double, 2 singles, and 2 batted balls over 104 miles per hour off the bat. And that came against you, Darvish. So anything that you would like to add on your guys, Ketel Marte and Byron Buxton, Chris?
Just you're welcome. I think that's all. It's only one day.
Of course.
Ketel Marte probably won't hit 800 this season.
Yeah, maybe.
But Byron Buxton, he might go 30-30. So good start so far.
I thought what was most interesting to me was that Byron Buxton had 2 walks.
Matched his 2020 walk total.
He had 2 walks in 39 games last season. So it's just a very crazy game for Byron Buxton. 1 for 3.
Just stay healthy.
A home run, 456-foot home run, by the way. 2 RBI, 2 walks, and of course 2 strikeouts for Byron Buxton on opening day. Before we get to the news and notes, the Final Four is on Saturday, and you may be wondering, how do I actually watch these games? Well, just go over to the CBS Sports app on your connected TV or phone. From there, you'll see every tournament game available to watch. Think of it like a gateway to all the action. So download the CBS Sports app now so you never miss a minute of this NCAA tournament. So before we even went live with games, we had all this reliever information coming out, and I'm scrambling, checking all my lineups. I have 15 teams, trying to get Trevor Rosenthal out of all of them because Trevor Rosenthal landed on the IL with shoulder inflammation. So, Scott, what are you thinking here? I know earlier they were leaning towards Diekman, but they still have Sergio Romo there. Is it a mix and match kind of thing? Which one do you like more? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking Diekman for now. It doesn't sound like a serious issue. I mean, you don't like anything going on with the shoulder, but this sounds like more of a let's make sure he's totally right before putting him out there situation. So it's possible they just kind of, go the committee route until Trevor Rosenthal gets back. But if I'm putting it in a bid for one person, it's Jake Diekman. I'm not putting in a huge bid for him.
There are other closers you'd rather put in a bid for.
For sure. Yeah. If Hector Neris or Mark Melancon are available, they're still rostered in less than 50% of CBS leagues. So those are, I would say, priority number 1 and 2 if you need closers.
There's a real priority number 1.
Well, who is
Alex Reyes?
Alex Reyes, my dude. What a great bit of news we found out before opening day, just minutes before first pitch, that the Cardinals are planning on using Alex Reyes as the closer.
Now,
and they used him as a closer-ish tonight or today.
Now, it seemed like people were jumping to the conclusion that, oh, this means he's the closer now, when Mike Schild said, don't be surprised if you see him in some late game situations. Like that to me, that doesn't mean he's the closer. And if they're sticking to their plan of we want to get him to 100 innings this year, like that's going to be hard to do if he's a true closer. So I don't know. Mike Schild is also the one who sprang Kwang Hyun Kim is the closer on us opening day last year, and obviously that didn't last very long. So I still think they want Jordan Hickson. They're just not ready to turn the role over to him yet. So I'm not saying Reyes won't get any saves. Maybe it'll be like a Josh Hader before Josh Hader became a full-time closer situation where he gets double-digit saves.
The way that St. Louis Post-Dispatch reporter Derek Gould put it was, Cardinals will open the season with Alex Reyes as closer, even if they don't call him closer. And Derek Gould, kind of the gold standard for Cardinals.
I mean, that's obviously interpretation, though.
Yeah,
It's fine.
no,
He's allowed
I'm
to
choosing
interpret
to
things. We sit here
believe.
and interpret things all the time.
I'm choosing to believe that
Okay.
Alex Reyes will get every single save for the St. Louis Cardinals.
That is
No, I mean, look, it's kind of like with Mark Melancon in San Diego. He got the save today. We think he's a pretty good pitcher, but
Right. But he
when
has a
you've
track
got-
record as a closer. He's
no,
somebody.
I know. I'm just saying when you've got two other really good guys, like two other guys in both bullpens, St. Louis and San Diego, who could be, top 5 closers in baseball in Giovanni Gallegos and Jordan Hicks for the Cardinals and Emilio Pagan and Drew Pomeranz for the Padres. You don't have a large margin for error. And so, I think either one of those guys could be, that proverbial and literal bad week away from not being in that opportunity.
It's not entirely clear to me that Reyes would be a good closer either, because we complain about Karinchak's control problems, but Reyes have been worse. The little bit he's pitched in the majors so far. So I don't know. I'm not if I was prioritizing closer candidates off the waiver wire, I think I'd go Melancon 1, Hector Neris 2, Reyes 3, Jake Diekman 4.
I agree with that. I like that order. Scott, I mean, since Diekman and Reyes are much more widely available than the other two names you mentioned, if you play in, say, a 12-team Roto League, Category League, or deeper, how much fab would you spend on each of Reyes or Jake Diekman? Fab percentage.
Well, it depends how badly I need saves and whether $0 bids are allowed and whether it's weekly or daily. But, if it
Just
depends on a lot
answer
of
the
things,
question.
Frank.
God.
I probably would max out for those two, Reyes and Diekman. I'd go under 10. I'd go under 10%.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
right.
Josh Donaldson continues to skip leg day. He pulled up with a hamstring on opening day. And I mean, we're waiting for more information, but between this and the calf stuff that he suffered, I would guess it's probably not looking good for Josh Donaldson. Luis Reyes moves over to third base. He originally started the game in left field. He went 2 for 5 with a walk. He is 24% rostered. Chris, what is your interest level in Reyes?
Not super high because he's, probably just a he's a one category stud. He is one of the best bets for batting average in baseball. The question will be, if Donaldson does miss time, is Reyes going to play every day? And more, just as importantly, is he going to lead off every day? Because if he is, then you're probably looking at a guy who's a 2 category stud because he should score a lot of runs at the top of that lineup. If it's like batting leadoff one day, then 8 the next day or something like that, then it's a lot harder to get excited about because what you want from Reyes is a ton of plate appearances so that he can really help your batting average because he's not going to strike out much. And a lot of opportunities to score runs. I think he's as good a bet to hit 300 as anyone in baseball. So if he's playing every day, that could be super valuable in a Roto League. I think he's, pretty borderline in points, but you'll probably have room for him somewhere in your roster in a Roto League.
Again, that is Luis Reyes with the Minnesota Twins. Hunter Dozier is dealing with a right thumb contusion, but he could be back on Saturday for the Royals. And Nick Senzel, this is always the issue. He's constantly dealing with something, and he's banged up. He left on Thursday's game with a shoulder injury after a diving catch. The Reds are hopeful that he'll be back in the lineup at some point this weekend. So cross your fingers.
In his case, he is a player. He has had shoulder surgery, right? That was what ended his 2019 season.
Yes.
I believe you're
yes.
correct. Yep.
So that's more concerning than if, he had sprained his ankle.
Yeah, for sure. Again, Nick Senzel, please be all right. I mentioned earlier it was an inconsistent day for aces on the mound. We highlighted that with our oh my goodness gracious players. Of course, Glasnow and Alcantara were great, and Luis Castillo not so much. So let's just run through some pitching performances from the day, and you guys could give a quick thought so we can try to get through all these. Shane Bieber, we already mentioned he was at Detroit. It was in the snow. Velocity was down a little bit. Seems like it was certainly affected by the weather. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned, 12 Ks, 22 whiffs. Scott, anything there with Bieber?
My timeline was flooded early on when he allowed 3 earned runs in 2 innings, and then he ended up having one of the best pitching performances of the day. Stinks that he got a loss, I guess. But yeah, he's going to be fine.
Miguel
Matthew
Cabrera,
Boyd.
dead cat bounce back. That's my only takeaway.
Say it again.
Miguel Cabrera, dead cat bounce back season.
Dude, I brought it up the other day. He was good
Do
last.
it. Let's do it. I want one last good Miguel Cabrera season.
I mean, how awesome
Let's
was
get
that?
him to 3,000 hits.
Like snow just falling from the
That
sky.
was beautiful.
And he
Have you guys seen the video that the Tigers account tweeted of like the super high def slow motion of him hitting the home run in the snow? It just
in the snow. It looks like something out of The Natural or something. Very
Yeah, they probably should have just like pushed that game back 15 minutes, and it probably would have been a little better for Shane Bieber.
Well, what was awkward about it is Miguel Cabrera, because it was a line drive over the right field fence, a wall scraper, and Miguel Cabrera slid into second base because he couldn't see that it went over the fence in the snow.
That was awesome, dude. Oh man,
Miguel Cabrera he's probably gonna get to 3,000 hits and 500 home runs this season. That's fun.
I think he's 12 away from 500.
12 homers away and 133 hits. He'll probably get to both, even though he hasn't.
Oh, man. Let's get one more season from Miguel Cabrera. Let's stick with the Tigers here. Matthew Boyd, 55% rostered on CBS, going up against Cleveland. 5 2/3, 3 hits, shutout. No earned runs allowed, 4 walks, 2 Ks. The walk to strikeout ratio, very weird here. Only 7 whiffs. Chris, any interest here? The next start for Boyd comes against the Minnesota Twins.
There are some interesting things going on here. His first pitch fastball rate was way down. He was throwing his changeup, which has been a pitch he's been looking for. But I'm not that much more interested in adding him than I was, in drafts, and I was only kind of interested as a late round flyer. So, yeah, it's fine.
Garrett Cole went up against the Blue Jays, 5 1/3, 5 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 97 pitches. Scott, anything to see here?
Nope.
Fair enough. Sandy Alcantara, we already talked about. Tyler Glasnow, we already talked about. Kenta Maeda at the Brewers, 4 1/3, 2 runs allowed, 1 earned, 5 strikeouts, but 88 pitches. And I was watching this game. The Brewers really, really made him work. They put together some strong at-bats. Travis Shaw looked really, really good in this game. I think he had a 10 or 12 pitch at bat against Kenta Maeda, walked to load the bases at some point. So it was an interesting start for Maeda. Both the four-seam and sinker velocity were up a tick. Anything here, Chris?
No, I think he threw his slider more than he usually does. And, that can sometimes be a pitch that's harder to throw for strikes. So maybe that was part of it. But no, he wasn't bad.
Brandon Woodruff on the other side, 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. The fastball and sinker were also both up a tick. All right, so same game. You know what that means, Scott? We might have a hot gun in Milwaukee.
They don't use guns anymore, right?
And a hot Hawkeye cam. Does that work, Chris?
Yeah, he was all right looking.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever on Brandon Woodruff?
I don't really see any cause for alarm with Woodruff. I understand the result wasn't great, but
fastball velocity was up. His spin rate was still up from last season for the most part. So no, I see no reason to be concerned.
Kyle Hendricks against the Pirates. What happened here? 3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned, 3 walks. You're supposed to be a control artist. What the heck, Kyle Hendricks? He did have 4 strikeouts. Velocity was down a little bit. I think it was cold in Chicago as well. I didn't see the exact temperature there. Chris, any cause for concern? I mean, you're supposed to dominate, aren't you?
I think he gave up 6 or 8 runs in his second start last season. So no, I'm not particularly concerned. Like Kyle Hendricks walked 3 batters in 3 innings. That's probably not going to happen again. He might not walk 3 batters in a game again for like 12 or 13 starts.
All right, Scott. Max Fried. Let's talk about it because final line doesn't look that impressive at the Phillies. 5 innings pitched, 2 earned, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. But 18 swinging strikes on 93 pitches. He used his fastball a little bit less, went to the curveball and the slider more, and the slider averaged 86.8 miles per hour. Last year, that was 84 miles per hour. I know the final line doesn't look great, but
it was okay. I mean, it was.
I am intrigued here by Max Fried. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, his strikeout rate fell quite a bit last year from 2019, and that's the reason the xFIP was over 4 and why I had some reservations about investing in him. It wasn't the only reason, but it was one of the reasons. These 18 swinging strikes, that was a career high for him. He's never had that many in a game before. So, yeah, it caught my attention too. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's something to keep an eye on going forward. Obviously, Fried is, it's not really changing your approach to him either way, but if he's even better than you thought you were getting, then that would be good.
Oh, Chris,
Bundy is not making it through 6. Boom.
Were we talking about
Called
Bundy or Giolito before?
Giolito, sorry. Giolito, yeah.
I said you were off by 1 out because I think you said 5 innings or whatever, but
yeah, Bundy actually did make it through 6.
Giolito, final line, 5 1/3, 2 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts against the Angels lineup. I watched the first inning of this game, and he struck out David Fletcher, Shohei Ohtani, and Mike Trout all in a row to open the game. And it's just, gosh, Giolito is awesome. How about Aaron Nola? He was going up against the Braves, 6 2/3, 6 hits, 2 earned, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts. I love the 0 walks. That's really the only thing that he usually gets in trouble with. Anything here, Chris? Aaron Nola?
Yeah, there's a lot here. He's really good.
You
should want him on your team.
He only had 7 whiffs on 84 pitches,
Yeah.
but he did allow a lot of hard contact too. I noticed 92.7 mile per hour average exit velocity off of Nola. So
yeah,
maybe a little bit lucky, but
it's against the Braves though. Like they hit the ball really freaking hard. He's not going to face offenses that good every time out. He's great.
Clayton Kershaw at the Rockies. Womp womp. 5 2/3, 10 hits, 6 runs. 5 of those were earned. Only 2 strikeouts. What'd you see here, Scott?
Well, his velocity was down a little, and I think the temperature was actually pretty good, surprisingly, in Colorado. But his velocity was down to where it was in 2019, I think. We've seen some fluctuation over the past couple of years, and obviously he's been able to navigate it. It's a Coors Field start. You always get a pass for that.
Madison Bumgarner against the Padres. He was at San Diego. 4 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. All right, that's kind of interesting. Fastball velocity was actually up 2 miles per hour from last season. Chris, anything interesting from Mad Bum?
Yeah, he wasn't able to sustain that fastball velocity the whole start. I think by the end he was throwing a lot of 87, 88, 89. So, I don't think we're going to see peak Bumgarner or anything like that, but it's nice to see the velocity was up, and we'll keep watching.
And of course, I am all about the universal DH, but Mad Bum almost hit a home run off of Yu Darvish. So that was pretty interesting to watch. Speaking of Darvish going up against the Diamondbacks, probably thought this would have fared a little bit better too, but 4 2/3, 8 hits, 4 earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. And I was watching this start closely. I have a lot of Darvish, and the line looks a lot worse than he actually pitched. I think Jace Tingler left him out there too long. He was trying to get him through 5 so that he can get the win. But 93 pitches to get through 4 2/3. He allowed 2 homers in a final inning of work. Only 9 whiffs on 93 pitches. Anything on Darvish, Scott?
No, I don't see any reason for concern there. I think your assessment seems right to me.
He threw 7 different pitches.
And of course,
cutter, 4-seam, slider, knuckle, sinker, splitter, curveball. Just amazing.
Yeah. And his cutter was still his bread and butter pitch, which you like to see, especially coming over, to a new team now. You wanted to see that arsenal kind of remain what it's been over the past year and a half, where he's, obviously been the best that we've ever seen from Darvish. So I was interested to see his arsenal look the same as it was with the Cubs. Jack Flaherty was bad. We mentioned that. Also in that game, opposite of Castillo, 4 1/3, 6 earned runs, only 4 strikeouts. Velo down a little bit for Flaherty, but that's because it was cold in Cincinnati. Brad Keller. Oh my gosh. I hope you did not stream him because he went up against the Rangers. 1.1 innings pitched, 9 hits, 6 earned runs. Scott,
his fastball velocity was up?
Yeah, it was up. That wasn't the issue. I think the issue was just that, he's Brad Keller, a pitch to contact pitcher, and this is what happens sometimes. He didn't throw his slider as much, so I'm guessing he just didn't have a great feel for it, and so there was nothing to take them off the fastball, and that's what I'm thinking. What happened to Brad Keller? He'll have good starts too. Just today wasn't his day.
68.
I mean, you can't hope to slow down these Rangers and Royals offenses. You can only hope to contain them.
I mean, what happened in that game? 24 combined runs, 30 combined hits. It was just...
Listen, the Royals are my number one sleeper team. I know I only finished them to finish. I only picked them to finish fourth in the AL Central, but they're my dark horse. They're my dark horse to shock everybody, because they have a pitching staff full of Brad Kellers who may not be studs, but can go deep into games and pitch pretty well most of the time. And then they have really good defense, really good bullpen. Carlos Santana reached base 4 times today. Michael Taylor got 3 hits, a homer, made a great play in center field.
Santana had 2 batted balls over. Santana had 2 batted balls over 109 miles an hour.
There you go.
Yep, I saw that too. More on that game in a little bit. If you were watching on the video side, don't go anywhere. If you are listening to the podcast, we are going to take a quick break. But when we return, we'll have the pitcher and hitter planners for week 2 coming up next here on Fantasy Baseball Today. Let's dive into those week 2 pitcher and hitter planners presented by Line & Kugels. This is for anybody whose lineup is resetting this upcoming Monday. So if you play in a Roto League, that means more than likely, this is who we're talking about here, but there are probably some head-to-head leagues that are only playing this upcoming weekend series and then resetting on Monday. So, Scott, why don't you kick us off with some of your favorite 2-start pitchers for week 2?
Okay. Some of my favorites, and they're highly available for the most part. Yeah, I think they're all available in more than half of CBS sports leagues. My favorite is Carlos Rodon, who, of course, we've been hyping a lot here lately, at Seattle versus Kansas City, who we're still assuming will be a below average offense this year. Love those 2 matchups right away. Love what he did in spring training. More spin on the fastball, new curveball, better control. That's I think he's an interesting play there. Trevor Rogers, another guy who made some noise in spring training. A lot of swing and miss potential with that fastball changeup pairing, and showed a better breaking ball this spring. Matchups aren't great, St. Louis and the Mets, but I think with the strikeout potential in the 2-start week, it's worth taking a shot on. Drew Smyly. Again, the matchups could be better, but there's big swing and miss potential with him. He showed similar velocity this spring that he did last season when he took a big step forward as a strikeout pitcher. So if you're looking to get an extra start in your lineup, it may only be 10 innings between those 2 starts, maybe less than 10 innings. But if it is 10 innings, it's possible you get 15 to 20 strikeouts out of those 10 innings.
Chris, if you have Brad Keller on your roster, would you be all right dropping him for someone like Carlos Rodon or Trevor Rogers, who are both rostered in less than 55% of leagues right now?
I mean, you should have had Trevor Rogers on your team ahead of Brad Keller going into the season. So, yeah. I mean,
True.
Brad Keller is like the replacement level pitcher in fantasy. If you have him on your team, that's fine. If you drop him, also fine.
What would you guess his roster percentage is right now, Brad Keller?
71%.
Very close, 68%. I think that number is probably too high, and Rodon and Trevor Rogers both have more upside. Obviously, Brad Keller is solid for a points league, but I think you could do better with some of those other starting pitchers, especially if you need a 2-start pitcher for next week. Scott, how about some single-start sleeper pitchers that you have coming out in your column on Friday? Who are you interested there for week 2?
Before I get into that, I do want to backtrack a second, because this is something we haven't brought up yet. But I mentioned Drew Smyly as a 2-start pitcher. I'm not sure he will be. And I wanted to make sure I put that out there, because the Nationals, they had, it wasn't just one guy who tested positive for COVID. It's now several players. So it's an actual outbreak now. And so I think last I saw, they're still hoping they'll be able to resume their series with the Mets on Saturday. But I mean, just the way these played out last year, when you had several players test positive, on the same team, it was usually like 5 to 10 days that they had to shut down. So I'm not expecting the Nationals and Mets to get in any games this weekend. And I think that Nationals Braves series at the start of next week is in jeopardy too. So just wanted to mention that. Hitters. Talking about hitters.
No, some single start sleeper pitchers.
Oh, single start pitchers. Okay. Logan Webb. He's going against Colorado in San Francisco. Colorado out of Colorado is always going to be a great matchup. So good time to run him out there. Dylan Cease goes against those Royals. Freddie Peralta I think he's still scheduled to go against the Cubs. Now, he was kind of a surprise entrant into today's game. He relieved Brandon Woodruff in that Brewers game and pitched 2 innings, threw over 50 pitches. I think it was just because they have enough off days that they could afford to do that with him and him still take the 5th turn. It's going against the Cubs. So it could be a better.
Josh Lindblom pitched in today's game as well. He would be the other guy who would make a 5th start. So I don't think Freddie Peralta's lost his rotation spot or anything.
It's against the Cubs, could be a better matchup, but like the strikeout potential is enormous. And, just because he could be really good, that's a reason to consider him a sleeper as well. I do still have Brad Keller since he's going at Cleveland, but obviously that's going to be a harder sell now. Tarek Skubal's also going against Cleveland.
Chris, which one of those is your favorite? Logan Webb versus the Rockies in San Francisco, Dylan Cease versus the Royals at home, Freddie Peralta at the Cubs, Tarek Skubal at Cleveland. Which one do you like most?
I guess I'll go with Webb, but like if I had Cease or Peralta on my team and they were my worst pitchers, I wouldn't drop them for Webb.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense. Scott, let's go over to the hitter side. Who are some sleeper hitters that you're looking at for week 2?
All right, so CJ Cron's back at the top of the list. 3 games at home and 3 games at San Francisco. Gets some not so great pitchers. Christian Walker. Really, I like all the Diamondbacks this week because they're the team that the Rockies are facing in Colorado, and then their other series is against the Reds and like the back end of the Reds rotation. So Christian Walker, I like. Josh Rojas, I like. Justin Upton, I like his matchups this week. There's one team playing 7 games this week, and it's the Blue Jays at Texas for 3 against the Angels for 4. So they're the team with the best hitting matchups. But not a lot of Blue Jays you can recommend as a sleeper. Rowdy Tellez might be one because 6 of the 7 pitchers on the schedule are right-handers. So presuming he starts against all the right-handers, it might be a time to use him. Like the Reds matchups this week. So, we'll see if Senzel's healthy, but maybe him, maybe Joey Votto, maybe Jonathan India, who got 2 hits in his major league debut today. Bobby Dahlbeck. They're facing the Orioles for another 3 games. The Red Sox are, so he could do some damage. Those are the biggest ones.
I like it, especially
right.
You mentioned the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. I think that makes a lot of sense. Crone, Christian Walker, and again, Josh Rojas are a few names that we're looking at there. Again, that is the week 2 pitching and hitter planner presented by Line & Kugels. And speaking of which, we have a long weekend of baseball ahead of us. Why not enjoy the games with an ice cold beverage? I know I will with Line & Kugels Lemon Haze IPA. I actually got to try one of these last night, and it was awesome. It really was the perfect blend of a hoppy IPA with that lemonade zest that you're used to from Line & Kugels. The Lemon Haze IPA isn't all they offer either. If you haven't tried it yet, you have to try their famous Summer Shandy, which literally tastes like summer in a bottle or a can, depending on which one you get. The Shandy is a crisp beer with refreshing lemonade flavor. They also have a Session Helles, which has all the flavor of a crisp German-style beer, but it's only 99 calories. True story, I sent my dad a picture of the Helles the other day, and now I have to share it with him. So that one's on.
I love the 99-calorie beer. That's become a big focus of mine because I'm not going to stop drinking beer, but I do want to lose weight. So love that.
That's the perfect way to do it. Just head on over to Liney.com. That's Leini.com for more information. more information about all the delicious beers from Line and Kugels and where to find them. We teased it a little bit earlier, spoke about Michael Taylor a little bit. Slugfest in Kansas City, just wild. 24 combined runs. I mentioned 30 combined hits. And Joey Gallo, very interested here, did not strike out a single time in 6 at-bats. I guess it helps when you're facing Brad Keller, of course. Went 2 for 3 with 3 walks, 2 RBI, and a stolen base. Nate Lowe, my man, 2 for 6 with a bases clearing double. He wound up with 4 RBI, also had 3 strikeouts. He is only 20% rostered in CBS leagues. I don't think he's like a priority, but if you play in a deeper league with corner infield and you need someone, I do think Nate Lowe is an interesting player. Whit Merrifield just doing what he always does, 3 for 5, home run, 2 RBI, 2 runs scored. Jorge Soler, a 2x4, 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 runs, 2 RBI, and 1 mammoth home run. Michael Taylor, this is the one I really wanted to hit on. 3 hits with a home run. Scott, I know you were touting him in the offseason. He changed up his approach. Believe he has a new kind of batting stance that he's messing with, some new mechanics. Again, this is the Michael A. Taylor that used to be on the Washington Nationals. The home run that he hit opposite field on April 1st in Kauffman Stadium, that's no cheapie. That's a legit home run. So only 5% rostered. If you are in a deeper league that has 5 outfielders, Scott, how much fab would you be willing to put on Michael Taylor?
Well, I already got him, so I don't need to worry about that. But yeah, in a 5 outfielder league, look, if you're talking 12 teams, you don't need to put that much on him. Fewer than $5. If you're talking a 15-teamer, you might have to go. You'd have to go higher than that, obviously. I want him for heading into this week. I want him for $27 out of $1,000 in Tout Wars, but I'd go. You'd have to go higher than that for him now, probably. So you don't want to blow your whole budget on an outfielder who off to a hot start, because there are going to be a lot of those over the course of the season. But yeah, I mean, he has been a near 2020 player in the past. Injuries and inconsistencies have really kept him from having the full-time role that he has right now. But if that change is legitimate, it was made with the idea of him making more contact, that he doesn't have to sell out so hard for power to hit for power because he's so strong and athletic, reducing the leg kick, just a quieter swing. And he didn't strike out much. He had an awesome spring training and he didn't strike out that much. So if that's legit, then maybe he finally makes good on potential that's just kind of laid dormant for over 5 years. He's been part of the mix.
Michael Taylor, you mentioned he has approached 2020 before. Back in 2017, 19 home runs and 17 steals in just 118 games with the Nationals. And back in 2015, quite a while ago, but 14 home runs and 16 steals in 138 games. Again, Michael A. Taylor with the Royals. I hope nobody in my leagues is watching this, but I have a 15-team league, Roto League, with 5 outfielders where Fab runs on Thursday night, and I have a 6% bid on him. So I'm hoping that's enough to win Michael Taylor. Kyle Isbell, we spoke about him on yesterday's podcast, mentioned that he was making his major league debut and would be in the lineup for the Royals. That was because Adalberto Mondesi got hurt, and they made some shifts, and Whit Merrifield went to second, Nicky Lopez at short. Kyle Isbell was in right field, and he went 3 for 5 with 3 singles and 2 RBI. Chris, any interest in deeper leagues? Kyle Isbell.
Yeah, we talked about him yesterday, and I think we might have overlooked him a little bit. He is a little bit more of a legit prospect than, I think we gave him credit for. Certainly I gave him credit for. I did some reading afterwards, and I believe he's Baseball Prospectus's number 6 prospect for the Royals. So there's something there, and in the minors, 14 homers, 35 steals, 284 average. Like there's an interesting fantasy profile there. And who knows? Maybe he hits well enough that he can move over to second base when Mondesi gets back. I don't know if we're necessarily rooting for that because we'd rather see Bobby Witt get it, but it's possible.
Let's take a look at some other hitter performances from opening day. and specifically some guys that might be available on your waiver wire. Miguel Cabrera, we mentioned, went 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer off of Shane Bieber, just 29% rostered. Scott, your interest level in Miggy?
I don't know, man. DH only. It's going to be really hard getting him in the lineup.
He played first base, so I think he can gain first base eligibility pretty soon.
Yeah, but he's not going to play first base regularly, right? Isn't going to be Jamer Candelario with
I think
Isaac Paredes getting most of the time at third?
I was watching that game, and it did sound like they think he's going to play first base pretty regularly.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, I mean, he's going to be a low-end first base option at best. So we're talking deeper leagues.
Yeah, like 29% rostered might be pushing it already.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about this one? You want to go deep? Roberto Perez. He's 6% rostered. You went 1 for 2 with a 2-run home run off of Gregory Soto, who actually picked up the save for the Tigers on opening day. Roberto Perez also added 2 walks. And I was just kidding. I'm not overly excited about him. But if you punted catcher, if you play in 2 catcher leagues, he's probably going to play every day for the Cleveland Indians, or close to every day for them. And a couple of years ago, he hit 23 home runs. So Roberto Perez does have a little bit of pop. Probably should be rostered in more than 6% of leagues. Adam Frazier hit leadoff for the Pittsburgh Pirates on opening day against Kyle Hendricks. Went 2 for 4 with a double, 2 RBI, 2 walks, a run scored, and a stolen base. He's only 16% rostered. Chris, any interest in Adam Frazier?
There are a few guys in similar spots who I think are more interesting. I think Raimel Tapia is more interesting. He might be more rostered than Frazier, but he was also leading off for the Rockies. So I think Frazier's fine in a 15-team league, but I'm not super enthusiastic about adding him.
Yeah, Raimel Tapia did lead off for the Rockies, and he is 50% rostered, as he should be. He definitely should be rostered in more leagues than Adam Frazier.
Yeah, he should be rostered in all categories leagues, I think.
Turns out Isaac Paredes didn't even make the Tigers roster. I thought they sent Renato Nunez down to have a spot for Paredes, but I guess not. So it would seem like Miguel Cabrera would have to play first base.
Yeah, and I don't think Miguel Cabrera is like terribly interesting or anything, but I brought this up the other day. He was on pace for 26 home runs and 92 RBI last year, so there might be something left in the tank for Miguel Cabrera. Travis Shaw, is there anything left in the tank there? He was batting 5th for the Brewers on opening day. He went 2 for 4 with a double, 3 RBIs, and 1 walk. The walk came against Kenta Maeda. I mentioned it was a great at bat. It was like 10 or 12 pitch at bat. He's only 3% rostered. So
he didn't have a good spring, but his old plate discipline was back. Because you remember when he fell off, he was like striking out all the time. He struck out 11 times in 50 plate appearances this spring. So I would take that as an encouraging sign.
Maybe there's something in Miller Park.
I mean, he's a left-handed hitter, and Miller Park's one of the best parks in baseball for left-handed power. He got all messed up in 2019. It was something like 40 walks to 3 strikeouts or something when you included spring training. It was just like horrendously awful.
You mean the other way around? 40 strikeouts, 3 walks.
40 strikeouts, 3 walks. Yeah. 40 walks, 3 strikeouts would be pretty awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, he's batting 5th. He's probably going to play every single day, right? I don't know who the...
Yeah,
who would push him off, because Reyes is playing short.
I think if they're facing a lefty, they can put Reyes at third and Arcia at short if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Again, the name Travis Shaw, 3% roster in CBS. How about this? Chris Owings. I don't know if he's going to play every day either. He obviously had an awesome game on opening day, but it was against a lefty. And I'm wondering if Owings is only going to play against lefties. He went 3 for 3 with a triple, 2 singles, 3 runs scored, 2 steals, an RBI, and a walk. He is 0% rostered on CBS. Chris Owings. He can run a little bit. It's just, is he going to play more than just against lefties, Scott? I really don't know.
I doubt it. I mean, I suppose if he gets hot enough, then they could start sitting Ryan McMahon against some righties. But that's who he started in place of today.
Yeah.
Sam Hilliard was also out of the lineup because they were going against Clayton Kershaw, so that made sense. Yeah, we know who Chris Owings is, and it's not anything to get excited about.
I love the Rockies. I love how they seemingly make decisions solely to make fantasy players mad about like players who we shouldn't be getting mad about. You know, like I like Garrett Hampson and Ryan McMahon fine, but like we get so upset when Garrett Hampson's batting 8th, and it's just like, I don't know, the Rockies don't use him all that much for a pretty good reason, I think.
I'm a little tired of the obsession over where players bat in the lineup because it changes all the time. And like,
yeah,
where they bat in the lineup is important, but it's not magical. It doesn't make or break a player.
You still have to be good, and you still have to hit there all the time. You know, like if you bat leadoff for a week, you go, 0 for 25, and then you bat 8 the rest of the season. It doesn't really matter.
And I generally agree with you, Scott, but there are some players that I did admittedly boost up this draft season because I knew that they were going to stay in that spot, right? So like,
that's fair to elevate them, but I see sometimes people make the case for or against a player, and their whole argument is he's batting first or he's batting 8th, and it's like
if Garrett Hampson if Garrett Hampson can hit the way fantasy players have been hoping for like 3 years now, he's not going to hit 8 the whole season.
Right.
He'll eventually move up. Something will happen. There's no lineup stays static forever. So if you think a guy is good and he's batting 8th, you should just draft him because eventually he'll move up.
Yeah, you draft the skills, right? So I think that makes sense. I mean, it would make sense for any team not named the Rockies, right? So hopefully if Garrett Hampson plays well, they do move him up in the lineup. But theoretically, your logic makes sense, Chris. I mentioned Eric Hosmer. I liked him a lot this year because he's batting cleanup for one of the best lineups in baseball. Him and Will Myers went back-to-back on opening day, so that was nice to see. Paul Goldschmidt had a nice game as well, 4 for 5 with 2 doubles and 3 runs scored. He had a nice little bounce-back season, so be watching Paul Goldschmidt early on in the year. Nolan Arenado had multiple hits. I also saw he had 2 strikeouts as well. Nick Castellanos had a big game. Mentioned that. Jesse Winker, just the last one I wanted to highlight. He had 2 hits, both of them over 110 miles per hour off the bat. So Jesse Winker, just stay healthy, man. Just a lot like Nick Senzel. I think there's some upside
leadoff too
in that ballpark. Just God, I mean,
it matters.
Scott, he's batting leadoff. I don't know if you heard. He's batting
leadoff. That's why he's going to be so much more valuable.
Clint Frazier hit 9th today. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, Scott, the 9th hitter for the Yankees is better than like any other leadoff hitter in baseball. So
it's the second leadoff hitter.
Technically. Let's just wrap up with some bullpen stuff here. Things that we noticed on opening day. Gregory Soto, I mentioned he came in with a 3-zip lead for the Tigers. He did allow a 2-run home run, but he picked up the save for the Tigers. Of course, he's a lefty, but it seems like he is the guy, at least for now.
It seemed like it. I don't know if he jeopardized that. Brian Garcia was warming up when Soto was struggling to get through the inning, but he did eventually pull it out. And it's worth noting there was only one lefty due up when Soto came in. It was Josh Naylor. So it didn't seem like handedness was factoring into that decision.
Yeah, and he has these, I don't know what you call them, but they're like extensions, these red extensions that are coming out of his hat. This looks awesome. Just looks like a predator on the mound. It was really cool to watch. Jordan Romano, he faced the bottom of the Yankees lineup. Tell me if I'm overthinking this because I might. Okay,
you're overthinking it.
Jordan Romano faced the bottom of
23 pitches
in a tie game, and he walked 2, and he had 2 strikeouts. And then after they took the lead, a gentleman named Julian Merriweather, who is 1% rostered on CBS, came in, struck out the side, picked up the save. He threw 3 different pitches, and he averaged 96.9 miles per hour on his fastball. I'm just saying, Merriweather, 1 game, 1 inning each. He looked better than Jordan Romano. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, Romano got 2 strikeouts in his inning. Like, if he had thrown 11 pitches in the 9th, maybe he comes back out and gets, the final inning. But he threw 23. I think in that situation, him throwing the 9th inning is probably more relevant.
I will be putting in some bids on Merriweather in deeper leagues this weekend. It feels like one of those where everyone's kind of like overlooking it. Oh, Romano's the guy, but just in case. He looked
I
really
kind of feel like Merriweather's the backup guy over Rafael Dolis now.
that I would say for
But
sure. But
But I would not say Romano's job is in jeopardy. You know, if he goes out and blows a save their next game, maybe it is, but not right now.
for the Twins, Taylor Rogers pitched in the 7th, Hansel Robles in the 8th, and Alex Colomé came in the 9th and promptly blew a 3-run lead, which was very frustrating because for years I have called Alex Colomé a bust, and then this was the year I finally invested. And it was just a weird appearance. Max Kepler dropped this line drive. It was a hard hit. I mean, Yelich just hit a rocket right at him, but he dropped it. And then Colomé committed a throwing error himself, so he didn't help himself, obviously. But it seems like for now, Colomé's the guy, but definitely a short leash with the Minnesota Twins. Freddie Peralta talked about him. He pitched in the 5th and 6th inning. He retired all 6 batters that he faced. No, that's not true. He retired all 6 batters via the strikeout. And there was some interesting stuff going on with his usage. His fastball velocity was up like 2 miles per hour. He was throwing more curveballs than usual. So Freddie Peralta is still super interesting. Don't worry about him pitching in relief. I would still hold on to him. Scott, your boy Will Smith was used in the 9th inning in a tie game. It was a perfect inning for him. He struck out the side.
Yeah, he's the closer. I think him being used in the 9th inning with Chris Martin used in the 8th. Yeah, and I think it was the 1-2-3 in the lineup he was facing too, Will Smith. So, yeah, I still think he's the closer.
Let's wrap here on a high note, Scott. Someone that you and I were drafting everywhere, Daniel Bard, came in 3-run lead against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the presumed closer for the Rockies. He allowed 1 hit and 1 walk, but he struck out 2, and he got the save, and the velocity was actually up for Daniel Bard. He averaged 98.5 miles per hour on his fastball. So
he hit 99.9, I think. He was,
you gotta get a little bit more out there.
There is one additional closer situation that I think is worth addressing, and that's what happened in the Royals game, where Greg Holland entered in the 8th, got 1 out, struggled in the 9th. Wade Davis came in, struck out the only 2 batters he faced, and did so with velocity that was the highest it's been. You know, we're talking about a sample of a few pitches, but the average fastball velocity for him in this game was the highest it's been since 2018. When he had 43 saves. It was his last year as a good closer. So Mike Matheny kept mixing it up at the end of games last year before finally settling on Trevor Rosenthal. I think we might be in for more of that based on the way this one played out.
The ghost of Wade Davis's past. But you know what? We would have said the same thing about Trevor Rosenthal last year, and look what the Royals did with him. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility. I still think Greg Holland's the guy for the Royals, but definitely worth watching. Again, Wade Davis coming in there to close out that game. And I just remembered the Tampa Bay Rays situation. I did want to highlight this as well. Peter Fairbanks pitched in the 8th, and Diego Castillo pitched in the 9th. He struck out 2 and picked up the save for the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again on Monday. Bye-bye.